Welcome in, everybody, to Fan2Fan Detroit. I am your host, Andrew Norris. This is Double P, producer Parker. This week, we are going to talk about the undeniably great, always better than expected NBA playoffs, as every series besides one is tied right now. And even that series that isn't tied has been very entertaining. There's been a lot of ups and downs there. And then, of course, we're going to give you our Week 1 NFL picks, because when this airs, we will be only 2 days away from Texans-Chiefs kickoff. Months ago, I don't think most of us thought this was going to happen, and now we're here, and it seems like it's going pretty well in training camp. So we're going to actually be able to talk NFL for real, and we're gonna see it happen. We're gonna see if we were right or wrong. We just had our fantasy draft last week. We're here. We are here, and then of course, quick pitch, as many sports segments as we can give you in as little time possible. We will do that at the end. So stick with us.
Today there's a moratorium today on talking about coronavirus. This is going to be a coronavirus-free episode. We're only talking straight up sports, straight up predictions, straight up what's going on, like within the sport itself. So this is going to be good. I'm excited. I'm a little horny, and let's dive right in.
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. Let's start with the series that's not tied. Let's start with the Heat Bucks.
Yeah.
So we're 3-1. Yesterday, we saw Giannis injure his ankle. Had to miss the rest of the game, but we finally saw the guy that everybody wants to tell everybody is underrated and one of the best players in the league and a great number 2, and that's Chris Middleton, go absolutely bananas. 36 points, had the dagger in OT, and it was a tough shot over Jay Crowder.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he was phenomenal, and he kept the Bucks alive. And now if Giannis can play in Game 5, and they find a way to win that, you really can't count the Bucks out of the series. Do you agree, or are you still just completely right about it?
It's tough. I mean, when you go down 0-3 like that, it's just impossible to come back into a series. I mean, that would be a great start, kind of, to the dominance of the Giannis era, where he could become the first player to come back from 3-0 down and sprained his ankle. And I'm sure it was a pretty bad sprain, like the way he reacted, the way that they're talking about it. I think the Heat will win this series. I'd be shocked if like Giannis doesn't come back, get a cortisone shot in his ankle, and score like 65 points. But at the end of the day, they're down 0-3, and every time I watch these two teams play, the Heat just want it more. Like they win every loose ball, they get every 50-50 board. Like they're just the playoff team. You know, they're playing like a playoff team.
I'm going to take the Kevin Millar on the Boston Red Sox in 2004 approach to this series, right? So they won Game 4. You got that one out of the way. Cool. Sure. Now you've got to find a way to win Game 5. But if you can do that, Giannis is probably there for Game 6. So he was talking, I forget who their pitcher was, but Kevin Millar's approach was, then we got this guy on the mound for Game 6. And then we're going to win that. But guess what happens? Anything happens in Game 7. Anything happens in Game 7. So I'm going to take that approach game by game. But actually, before we discuss this further, I think I owe a deep and sincere apology to Jimmy Butler. I've spent the last 3 years calling this guy a fake leader, a fake tough guy, overrated, fringe all-star, whatever it may be. And now he is on the verge of just taking out what would have almost been a 70-win team in 5 games. And this Miami team looks like it can compete for a title, which I think I said last week on the show. I will not admit that until they beat the Bucks. But they're fucking close enough right now. They're like, I can admit that they are competitive. Do I think they'll win a title? No, I don't. Even though they're about to beat the best regular season team this year, I don't. But I blamed him for Philly. I blamed him for Minnesota. I kind of blamed him for Chicago, even when he was young. None of those were his fault. I mean, they may have been, but they couldn't have been, right? Just watching this, it feels like those could not have been his fault.
Well, I think that there's a combination of like growth as a person and growth as a leader, probably more likely, right? Because there's like the phase where you're not a leader, and then you decide I'd like to be a leader, but it doesn't just happen like that. You kind of have to earn that. And I don't think that he's been in a situation where people have wanted him to lead until he got to Miami. It certainly wasn't in Philly. Like there wasn't anything to lead there. Those guys weren't really interested in buying what Jimmy Butler is selling. Speaking of, I think your punishment needs to be that you have to go into a Starbucks and pay $20 for a coffee as your recompense to Jimmy Butler, who's been selling coffee in like lattes in the bubble for like $25 a pop.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Yeah, sure. I'll go get myself a really good coffee as punishment. That's a great idea. I agree with that. So my biggest takeaway from the first 3 games, and obviously not the first quarter and a half of Game 4, because Giannis looked absolutely dominant, 8 of 10, 18 points when he did play yesterday, is that this Heat team and Eric Spoelstra is treating Giannis exactly like the Spurs did in 07. We're going to stand at the free throw line. The second you come inside the perimeter, we're throwing 2 guys at you, and we're having our center waiting for you down low. You can pass it out. Sure, your guys can get hot, but they're not as good as you. They're not going to be hot for 4 quarters. Or you can take a bad contested shot inside, which sometimes you're going to get hot. You're going to go 8 of 10 for a quarter and a half because you're just that much of a freak. But it's never been as obvious as it is right now that the back-to-back MVP needs a jump shot. It doesn't have to be great, but he needs a consistent jump shot or he's probably not going to win a title.
Or at least like maybe some slightly better shooters around him.
Right.
One of the 2. I mean, just stand at the top of the key. Like it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough to guard him. But I think what we've seen is that the Miami Heat are fine, just like letting everybody else on the Bucks do their thing. Yeah. I want to just something that I thought was interesting from last night's box score. The starting 5 for the Heat had 26, 17, 18, 17, and 20 points. So it's just it's got real shades of that 04 Pistons team. Like they're greater than the sum of their parts, when you put them together.
It's the third time I've heard that in the last like 4 days. And I got to tell you, I kind of want to sweet chin music you right now. It's just, that's
they're not, I don't think that they're that great, but I think that that's the style of team that we're looking at. I kind of feel like last year's Raptors teams are a little bit like that. I mean, they had Kawhi.
Even with Kawhi, I would give last year's Raptors team more 04 Pistons cred than this year's Heat team. You for sure got to make the conference finals. They ain't closed out this series yet.
Yeah.
Right? The Pistons made 6 conference finals in a row. Does this eliminate the Heat from the Giannis sweepstakes?
No, I think that it makes them more likely to get Giannis.
So he's going to Kevin Durant and turn into the biggest villain in the NBA?
Why not?
Because
there's
it's like
two landing places for Giannis. There's only 2. It's New York and Miami. And if he wants to win, he's going to Miami.
I'm going to disagree wholeheartedly. I'll throw 2 more at you right now. Toronto and Portland.
Toronto, I think, is interesting. I hope Giannis likes the cold, but I mean,
he's in Milwaukee. I think he's
probably fine. Portland, I just don't know if I quite see it. I think
they win 3 in a row.
You and I have talked not so much on the show, but like in real life about how Giannis is kind of a sneaky brand guy. Kind of like, he's built his brand as this like kind of aw shucks European guy who is just happy to be here. And I don't think that that's what he really is. I don't think you can be when you reach that stage of like NBA stardom. So I think he's going to go to the big market. I think that the Heat are constantly an appealing place for free agents. No state tax, Miami kicks ass, good coach. Good system, Pat Riley, the whole thing. I like the Heat, especially like getting an inside look at this and being like, oh, this could be me,
Yeah. I agree with you that he's a sneaky brand guy, but I also think that he seems like a super prideful dude, which I think will keep him away from Miami. But let's move on to the Celtics Raptors. This year's been amazing. This series has been so exciting. So it starts 2-0 Celtics. Then it looks like they're going to go 3-0 with Kemba Walker. Nice little pocket pass inside to Tice for the dunk with 0.5 seconds left. Throw in the Raptors call a timeout. What do the Celtics do? Put in Taco Fall, who hasn't played a minute in this series. Make sure he can defend that pass. Put him right on Kyle Lowry on the sideline. OG Anunoby is standing in the corner by himself, opposite side of the court. And Kyle Lowry makes one of the most beautiful passes I have ever seen in my life. Right over 7'5" Taco Fall, lands right in the shooting pocket of OG Anunoby, and with 0.5 seconds, pulls the trigger, gets it off in plenty of time, and that's cash money. All of a sudden, 2-1. Raptors come back in game 4 and they win that one. Not easily. That was another close game. Not as close as game 3, but another good game. And now I think I think the Raptors are going to win this in 6. I don't think they're going to lose another game in the series.
It's tough. I think you and I have been pretty respectful of the Raptors' title defense, at least me until last week where I said the Celtics were going to win. And I still think the Celtics are going to win. Here's what the Celtics shot from 3 in game 4. Jason Tatum, 1 for 6. Kemba Walker, 1 for 6. Marcus Smart, 1 for 6. Jaylen Brown, 2 for 11. That's not going to keep happening. They're a better shooting team than that. They're not the world's best shooting team, but they're pretty good. And all of these games have just basically been like who's making, who's missing, and that's who wins the game. I think that these teams are very similar talent-wise. They're both well-coached. They both play great team defense. And this, to me, is the most likely series to go 7 games. And then, obviously, in Game 7, who knows what's going to happen.
As always, who knows? Game 7 seemed to come down to who's the best player on the court, who's the best single individual player, and what team plays the better defense.
I'm going to stick with the Celtics, though, who I think have better individual players. Jason Tatum, I think, is probably the most talented player in the series, theoretically. So if that's what it is, then I think that's who will win.
So I'm going to counter this guy shot 1 for 6, this guy shot 1 for 6 with a Pascal Siakam is still shooting below 40% from the field card in the playoffs. And that also can't stick. Ugh. I don't believe it. Like we saw it last year. This guy is not scared of the moment. He's not scared of the moment. And I heard this on the Freddie Mac show on ESPN Radio the other night, which is a very interesting show to listen to if anybody at home has not heard him. He really gave some numbers about how when Fred VanVleet goes, this Raptors team goes. And it's just that simple. But you can take that to the next level. If Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet are both going, this Raptors team is almost unbeatable. I mean, they're so deep. They have so many weapons to spread it around to, so you can't focus on 2 guys.
I mean, they're playing an eight-man rotation, which is, and I guess I see why.
Yeah, that's what you need. You need 8 guys. Yeah. Bill Simmons always says it. You need 8 guys you can trust, right?
Yeah.
To win
9 guys if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm. Kyle Lowry should 100% get his jersey retired in Toronto, right?
Oh, I don't think that Toronto to me is like kind of a good basketball town. They get it. I think that they're kind of like Portland Light. They're really going to go to bat for their guys. And I think that Kyle Lowry and Pascal Siakam and probably Marc Gasol are going to have their jerseys retired.
I'd be shocked if Gasol did.
Why? He's like, why not?
Because he got there halfway through the season last year.
Yeah, but they won a title with him, and he's been awesome again this year.
Yeah, I know. That seems. If he stuck around for another 3 years, maybe. Pascal Siakam, if he can continue this level of play for another few years, which he will, he'll be in those rafters. But Kyle Lowry is the best player in franchise history, at least over a consistent period of time, right? He's not the most talented player. They had Vince Carter, they had Tracy McGrady, but they had Chris Bosh. But for a long period of time, Kyle Lowry has put this franchise on his back. He had to deal with DeMar DeRozan pulling up from 16 feet for 6 years and shooting 42% from the field. And he still was helping bring them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Just perpetually underrated every single year, Kyle Lowry, rooting big time for the Raptors in this Eastern Conference. I think they're going to pull it out. I think they're going to represent the East in the NBA Finals and kind of shove the pie in Kawhi's face.
If you put together like a best player since 2000 for every franchise, that Raptors team would be like pretty sneaky good.
Yeah, dude.
Kyle Lowry, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh, Kawhi, Pascal Siakam as your top 6. Whew.
I don't know who beats them.
The Warriors probably, but let's move on.
The Warriors and the Lakers, they beat them. All right. Nuggets, Clippers.
Yeah.
Tied at 1-1. After game 1, I did not think it was going to be tied at 1-1. And by the time people watch this tomorrow, it'll be 2-1 one of the ways. Probably the Clippers, if I had to guess.
Probably.
But I'm not going to count out any team that has Jamal Murray playing the way Jamal Murray is playing right now.
Yeah, he's having what's the ESPN like headline? Jamal Murray is having a moment or whatever they would do. It's something's going on with Jamal Murray. Hopefully this is like a long-term thing, right? And this isn't kind of is this like him doing a Dame Lillard impression? Is that what this is?
Maybe, but I feel like to do that impression, it has to at least be like kind of a long-term thing, right? You have to
Yeah,
have the
I
ability
agree.
to do it for. I mean, again, he's not going to drop 140 points over a 3-game span all the time, but he's averaging 30 points a game in the playoffs right now, and
Yeah.
that's like he's had a 12-point game in there. He's had a 16-point game in there. I mean, game one of this Clippers series for him was a stinker. That was his 12-point game, but he's still been just absolutely phenomenal. When he turned it on in game two, that Nuggets offense just looked like the Clippers were standing there, one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Mhm.
And they're like, what do we do about this guy? How do we stop this little pick and roll pull up from 18 feet, hit a mid range jumper? And everybody who knows me knows I hate the mid range jumper. But when you can get an open one off the pick and roll and a guy who's going to shoot 50, 55%, like elite shooting percentages from that spot, it's a great shot to take, but it's got to be an elite shooter taking those shots. Can he do this for an entire series and push this to 6-7 against maybe the best perimeter defending team in basketball?
Probably not. It's tough. It's tough because these guys, they get hot and you don't want to cut them out. Like, your head says one thing, but your heart says another.
TJ Warren, for example, I had the Pacers going 7 because of TJ Warren.
Yeah, right. Is there going to be a point where they just stop guarding Jeremy Grant and they just put Kawhi on Jamal Murray or something, or Paul George, and they just?
I mean, that's kind of what you definitely can, but it almost seems like Kawhi's been pretty reluctant to do that with big players in the playoffs this year, at least. I mean, he didn't do it very much in the first round against Luka. He would happily invite switches if he saw a pick. He's not fighting around that pick, which really throws your whole defense out of whack. If a guy's got a shot to get around the pick and get back on his guy, you got to do it. But it seemed like Kawhi, especially late in games, was willing to just be like, okay, well, there's a pick here. What am I going to do? Whoops. And I honestly think you'd have better luck just throwing Paul George on him, because Paul George right now definitely has something to prove, right?
Yeah, something. Yeah, he's now. I wonder if Paul George is forcing it a little bit. It certainly kind of has felt like that.
Under 40% in 6 out of 8 playoff games. Playoff P is still yet to arrive.
28, 22, 8, and 3. I mean,
yeah, but look at the shooting. The shooting wasn't all that great in that game.
7 for 19, 4 for 10.
But it was better than Kawhi Leonard in game 2, who shot 4 for 17 from the field. He did help in other ways. He had almost double-digit assists and rebounds. Probably the closest Kawhi's ever come to a playoff triple-double.
Did you see that steal where he just took it out of his hand, it got lodged right in this part of his arm, and he scooped it almost? Dude, that's wild.
He's a freak. He's got those Michael Jordan arms and hands where they're literally triple the size of mine. It just doesn't make sense.
I have no beat on Kawhi at all. I don't think anybody does, but I genuinely don't know what he's gonna do game to game, or what he thinks or believes. It's very strange.
Yeah, I can't tell if that's a guy who has a little bit of nerves, but it helps him. Those people where when they get nervous, they get better. I think LeBron's kind of turned into one of those people. He wasn't necessarily one of those people earlier in his career. I think Dirk was one of those people, because you could always see it on Dirk, right? You call a timeout and Dirk would have this look of just and I don't know if it was just let's go, or anxiety taking over his body, but then he'd come out and hit 3 fadeaway jumpers in a row. But I still think the series at best goes 6. I'm going to give the Nuggets 6 just because I'm buying into Jamal Murray, right?
Yeah.
They're going to win one more.
I think that, 6 games against the Clippers for this Nuggets team is pretty impressive. And I think they have their number 2 guy, which changes the way that they go into their next season, where I think they're looking for their number 3 guy. And you're probably looking to deal Gary Harris in the first-round pick for the best player you can get.
You want to talk Lakers-Rockets?
Yeah, I would love to talk Lakers-Rockets. How you feeling about Lakers-Rockets? How you doing?
I'm a little nervous.
You should be nervous.
I'm a little nervous, dude. And by the way, if I was any team in the NBA right now, I'd be a little nervous. There's no team that's safe right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But the Lakers just seem so they get off to this huge lead in game 2. It's 42-21 or something like that. They're doubling them up. And then they go on this quarter and a half run of just, we're going to shoot all the shit.
Yeah,
like,
Rajon Rondo's going to put up 5 threes in a row.
It doesn't make sense. And Rondo, it's a simple fix for. Again, wow, this is the most people are ever going to hear me defend the mid-range. But Rondo, take a step in, man. You hit the mid-range at a good clip. Just do it. Just take a step in from the three-point line. It'll be okay. And he started doing it in the second half, and honestly, it saved the Lakers' ass. But man, you have a 21-point lead in the first quarter. We've seen this Lakers team all year just put teams away. Put them away. That's it. We saw it in the Blazers series, and they didn't have the ability to do that against the Rockets. They had a decent lead in the first half of game one. They didn't have the ability to put them away then either. Also, the guys defending Russ and Harden aren't doing a great job. Russ defended himself last night. Okay, Russ. Yeah. That was the worst Russell Westbrook game I have ever seen. He looked like a bull in a china shop, man. He just running and falling and throwing the ball everywhere. If he played 0 minutes, the Rockets win that game by 10 points. He was that bad.
I disagree on that. I think that the problem with the Rockets right now is James Harden. And I feel like all the Lakers have done to shut him down is just double team him. That's all that they do. Rajon Rondo picks him up full court, and then they double team him when he crosses the half. And all he's been able to do is pass out of that, and then you're dependent on basically PJ Tucker to hit 45% on open three-pointers to win the game. And that could work, but it didn't yesterday.
He still dropped 27 on 50% shooting.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm expecting from James Harden. I know it's the playoffs, it's different, but the guy scored 50 points a game for 2 months straight this year. I'm not seeing the James Harden that I go to bat for every week.
But don't you think that at least would have worked last night if Russ wasn't how many points? Let's see. 1 of 7 from the field from 3, 4 of 15 from the field with 7 turnovers and only 4 assists, 10 points, shot.
He had 10 points.
He had 10 points, man. It was I'm not joking around. It was the worst I've ever seen Russell Westbrook.
I felt like I was watching that game pretty close. It didn't feel like he was missing a whole bunch of stuff when I was watching, but
that's because they took him out like 3 times because he was trash.
Well, he had 5 fouls and they basically didn't play him for the first half of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
If I'm the Lakers, I'm super nervous because I think you just kind of skipped out on one of the worst games the Rockets have played all year. And I know that I'm going to be the very last person on the planet to say this, and I've really held off on believing this because I think that tagging a guy with this is really unfair, and it really follows him through his whole career and post-career. But James Harden is not good in big games. He has a problem, and that problem is he cannot get there in these big games. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's mental. I think it feels mental because when you watch him play in the regular season, it's like he's unconscious out there. He just
doesn't give a shit in the regular season.
He's just chucking it, and I don't know, maybe he needs to be more relaxed, Maybe he's not able to go buy out strip clubs on off days, and that's how he recharges, Something is different and wrong with this Rockets team, and it really sucks because I really like them, and I really want them to win. And it's just too bad.
So here is where I would be less nervous if I was a Lakers fan. I'm going to read you the Rockets starters 3-point by attempts in game 2. PJ Tucker went 4 of 7. That's not going to happen every night. Robert Covington went 4 of 8. That's not going to happen every night. Russell Westbrook went 1 of 7. That might happen most nights. He's like a 30% 3-point shooter. Eric Gordon went 6 of 12. That'll happen sometimes, but it's not going to happen every night. And James Harden went 4 of 8. That is what it is. Right? The Rockets made 22 threes and shot 41.5% from the field on threes. Okay? Now, some of that is the Lakers. For sure, some of that is the Lakers, and it's something they need to fix. But even in game 1, the Rockets, who were hot in game 1, everybody thought they were hot then, shot 36% from 3, where the Lakers only shot 29% from 3. So if they can get the perimeter defense working a little bit, and that might take switching Anthony Davis to center, which we've heard now he's willing to do. It almost seems like the franchise is scared to do it so he doesn't leave in free agency if he gets ticked off. But you got to do it in this series. Dwight Howard, I don't think he ended up playing. I don't remember. I think he had a DNP coach's decision.
JaVale McGee went out.
JaVale McGee they just said his ankle hurt. They didn't say they didn't say it was sore. They didn't say if it was sprained. They just said his ankle hurt.
That's some Bill Belichick
not
shit.
a hurt ankle. His ankle hurt, which I think are two different things. So
they go into the locker room and there's like a big shard of glass sticking out of his foot. Oh, how we missed this?
Yeah. It's just gotten further in since the game started, Coach. So yeah, I'm not terrified. I think the Lakers are going to win the series in 6, but I'm a little nervous.
Whoa, this is a 7-game series for me, and I don't want to make a pick. I'm really kind of. It's tough because on the one hand, like I like LeBron a lot. I love LeBron. I think he's the second best player, undisputed right now, maybe the first. And I think if he wins this title, it becomes a very serious. Like, is he one? I think he might be if he wins this title. But on the other hand, I really want James Harden to win something.
I understand that. I've been rooting for Harden to win something since he got to Houston.
And I love Russell Westbrook. I know people don't like that he's like yelling at nothing, but I love that he yells at nothing. I love hearing him accost virtual fans. I just love Russell Westbrook, man.
He's just frustrating. He's just because if the guy could get his game like 10% more under control and shoot 48% from the field and like 36% from 3, he might be the best player in the NBA, but he refuses to just chill the fuck out.
Well, he did. He did in the back half of the regular season this year. He was
amazing.
Yeah, he was incredible.
Amazing. That was the best I've ever seen him by far. He carried James Harden for a half of a season, which is like no small thing to do. James Harden is an MVP winner, like a top 3 finisher 4+ separate times. So
I do think you'll see some of those shooting numbers stay pretty close. But they're open. It's because they're open. They're wide open by the time they work the ball around.
Yeah, the passing was absurd by the Rockets last night. Swinging it all the way around, back, and then forth. All right, but here's the thing. You don't get to get out with a candy-ass answer like I'm not picking a winner. Who's winning in 7?
Lakers in 7.
Okay.
Lakers at 7, and I'm very sad at 7.
It's okay. I mean, I would be very sad if the Lakers lost, but I wouldn't be as sad as I typically would be. You know what I'm saying? Because I'd be full board James Harden for the championship.
If the Lakers lose, Anthony Davis is not coming back.
Yes, he is. Because that's his city, man. That turns into his city. He gets somebody there in a couple of years. He's there.
They need a third guy. I don't know if I think they can beat the Clippers right
I would trade Kyle Kuzma for Derrick Rose. That's what I would do for next year. And then I'd find my third guy the year after because you'd have the money to do it.
Let's move on. I want to think about that.
No, real quick. Imagine this bench. You finally are like, damn it, we have to take LeBron and Anthony Davis off the court at the same time. Derrick Rose, you have 4 minutes. Go shoot the ball 9 times. Okay. Just go shoot the ball 9 times. He's going to make like 6 of them. Yeah, he's going to make like – if he played like he did this year with the Pistons, he's going to make like 6 of them. And
holy cow. The Pistons would be like the longest, thinnest team. Imagine if like –
we'd be the Milwaukee Bucks 4 years ago. That's what we'd be. It'd be like skinny Giannis with Sekou. We'd have – shitty Chris Middleton with Kuzma and Eric Bledsoe with Killian Hayes. Who wants a little bit of inside scoop, really bad inside scoop, but I'm going to give it to you anyways.
Cool.
LaMelo Ball was at Art and Jake's on 23 and Hayes yesterday, just hanging out.
23 and Hayes?
Just hanging out, dude.
That's not even – that's like –
yeah, well, that's a pretty popular area to be. There's some nice gyms out there, which is my guess as to why he was out there.
That's like an hour outside of the city.
Yeah, no, 45 minutes. That's where I grew up.
That's wild. If there's a Blake Griffin to the Warriors trade going and we have to, and we're looking at LaMelo, I'm just saying.
I'd be so sad. I'd be happy, but I'd also be sad. I just don't want to help the Warriors put together a 4-star team again. I don't want to be the team that does that.
I don't know if I think that Draymond is the same level of star that he was.
He's not, but it won't matter if Blake's healthy because he's close enough.
That team would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they would. And they'd win again, and I'd be pissed off.
Speaking of, we've mentioned Kevin Durant twice, and since we're all the way through all the playoff series, right? We did them all.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to talk to you about the Brooklyn Nets hiring Steve Nash as their head coach, because I think we have kind of a divergent opinion here. Why don't you tell me what you think and why you think it first? We'll go from there.
All right. So Steve Nash has been with the Warriors since, I believe, 2014. So he was there through the KD era. They're known to have gotten along. Of course, Steve Nash was in a really good position where he was more of a front office guy who could come down to the practice court and just kind of hang out and throw in his 2 cents when he felt like it was necessary. But it's a skill with people like Kevin Durant to know when that's necessary without him getting ticked off. So I think that relationship being there is huge. And then you have the Kyrie factor, who is one of the best point guards in the league, but he does have some like a little bit of fine tuning on little point guard things, like true point guard things in his game that he needs to work on.
And
that's Steve Nash,
the subject of science.
Yeah, and so well, he needs a lot of work on that one. But Steve Nash is the perfect guy for both, I think. If I know anything about Steve Nash, it's that he knows science and passing a basketball. So I think he'll help Kyrie a ton. And then on top of that, the Nets still have a ton of young guys. I mean, Karis LeVert, even though he's not 22, is still like not like a seasoned vet who's going to storm into a locker room and tell coach what to do. And those guys are going to listen to Steve Nash. This is a back-to-back MVP. This is one of the best point guards. This is a top 10 point guard to ever play the game, and 10's on the low end of that. So I just think it works. And then on top of that, you laid out some really good points that I'm sure you'll get to in a second here as to why you didn't love it. So I agreed with most of them. So I had to think of something on the fly, right? Real quick, I had to think of something. I have to tell the story this way because I'm so proud of how quickly I did it. But I realized the last 5 coaches who won their NBA title were on their first coaching job. And then you skip, well, and then technically Pop is the same thing, but we're going to skip Pop because it's year 100 of that. And then you go before that, and Eric Spoelstra was the same thing. So there's something to be had with fresh minds in basketball, people who haven't been molded by the early 2000s or even the late 2000s and who have kind of grown with the game over the last decade. And we know Steve Nash has, because if Steve Nash played in 2020, he'd be averaging 31 points a game. He said this in a bunch of interviews that he's like, I don't know why those Suns teams weren't playing faster. I don't know why we weren't shooting more 3-pointers, right? He really Which
has
is
kind
crazy.
of the gift of retrospect. Yeah. I mean, now we know he was correct, right? Because they were kind of the first team to kind of dip their toe into that kind of style of offense that the Rockets have kind of kicked the door down for. I think that there's something to be said for like finding your coach for the team, right? And when you have all of these superstars, it isn't about X's and O's. It isn't about talent development. It's about cohesion in the locker room and getting everybody on the same page. And if the Brooklyn Nets think that everybody will buy into Steve Nash, then it's undoubtedly the right hire. And if they win a title, they're geniuses, right? This is kind of, I think, the same argument that Steve Kerr, being in the Warriors, was that he might not have been the world's best X's and O's coach. But he was an ex-player. He knew what their lives were like, and he, I think, resonated with them on an emotional level. I mean, you see that with Draymond, right? I don't know if Draymond's as successful as Steve Kerr isn't his coach. I just don't think he's 80% of the player that he became, because I just think it takes certain kinds of personalities, and I think that there's enough talent on this Nets team that it doesn't matter to me like what the call on the huddle is or what the rotation is. It's you have Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and you have Karis LeVert, and you've got Jared Allen, and you've got talent. It's just about, can you get that talent to come together as one unit? And I think that's what their goal is with the Steve Nash hire. So I'm curious to see how it goes. It's not like, I know that he's been like with the Warriors, but Steve Nash has been doing like soccer for Bleacher Report, like on location for a couple of years. So I guess I don't know like how deep into the sport he's been. He's been kind of doing some other stuff. So I'll be curious to see. I'm definitely going to be watching it. I'm
not concerned about an hour show once a week on Bleacher Report though. Like that's it.
Yeah.
He's like, he's a 6-foot white dude from Canada and he made the NBA. The dude knows how to work hard. He can do 2 jobs at once. That's for sure. With little to no athleticism. So I love the hire. I think it'll work out great, but I still don't think they'll ever win a title. I just don't think that team's going to win a title.
I think that they're still kind of a player away. I think they're going to make another move.
And we
but I
have to
know that
see
they
what
don't have a
post
lot of
Achilles
room.
tear KD is like. I mean,
I think he'll
the
be fine.
Achilles tear in the NBA is Tommy John on steroids. Like it's as bad as it gets, especially when you're in your early 30s. I mean, KD isn't 25 anymore. He's going to be, I think, 33 when he comes back next year. 32.
Wow, really?
32 maybe. Let me check that real quick. I would like to.
Should do a Google on that. I just like this Nets team, and the East is going to be wide open. And yeah, what?
Turns 32 on September 29th.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy. I don't feel like I mean, KD's been in our lives for a long time, but it doesn't feel that way the same way it does with LeBron.
yeah, I know. I feel that. So we'll see if they win a title. I still think it's the right hire either way because I think he can be your coach long after this era. Because I think they're going to be good. I think they'll be like an Eastern Conference Finals team year in, year out. I just think once they run into whatever beast of a team on the East Giannis is in, unless he goes to Portland or something, that's probably going to be the team for the next X amount of years.
Yeah, I think that you're right, that there is something to like a first-time head coach coming in and really being more of the emotional leader than the like basketball leader, quote unquote, the way like kind of Phil Jackson might be.
All right, let's do some NFL picks.
NFL picks.
I can't believe when this airs will be like 48 hours almost exactly away. We will be 48 hours and 20 minutes away from the NFL season getting underway. And that starts with your defending, reigning, and soon to be once again terrorizing NFL champions in the Kansas City Chiefs against the who the hell knows what they're going to be this year, Houston Texans. I want to hear your thoughts on this one first.
So before we get into this, I want to talk really briefly about how we're going to talk about this.
Okay.
We're going to probably do mostly wins and losses. We are going to talk about some lines when we see some interesting things, just because I think that lines, even if you're not a gambler, are a really good way to approach like a more intricate situation. It's a little deeper of analysis, I think, than just picking wins and losses. So before we do that, real quick, Andrew, why don't you tell us about how lines work in football? Like, give me an example of line and what that means.
Cool. I'm just going to give you exactly this example for this game. Right now, KC is minus 9.5. So they're a 9.5 point favorites. So what a lot of people say is, hey, Andrew, how do you score 9.5 points? And what I say is, you don't score 9.5 points. You score either 9 or you score 10, right? So if it's under 9.5, that side wins. If it's 9 or less, that side wins. The under wins. If it's 10 or more, the over wins, or the Chiefs win, right? If it's 10 or more. So that's that. And then there's what's called a money line, right? So in this game, the Texans are a plus 350 on the money line, which means you think they're going to win straight up with no spread. So no plus 9.5 for the Texans. Okay, so plus 350. That means if you bet $100 on the Texans to win straight up, you win $350. The Chiefs are minus 440 on the money line, which means you need to bet $440 to win $100. So those are the very bare bones of sports betting. Those are the two support poles that keep the whole thing going right there, the money line and the spread.
And stuff like that's more useful when we talk about a game like this. Like, I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to take the Texans over the Chiefs after the way that these off seasons have gone, right? I'm not. Are you? Are you feeling stupidly bold?
I thought about it for a second, only because I believe strongly in the Super Bowl hangover, but I believe more strongly in Patrick Mahomes. So I'm taking the Chiefs pretty easily here. They'll probably cover the spread. Honestly, it'll probably be a 2-touchdown game. So
yeah. I'm right in lockstep with you on that.
I still think the Texans will be good, though. I don't want to completely count them out for the entire season. I still think this team could find a way into the playoffs, especially in their division, right?
They're going to be really good for the 5 games that J.J. Watt plays this year.
Yeah. All right, and then on to Sunday's games. We'll start with the Falcons and Seahawks. Another one I think is pretty easy here, right? I'm going the Seahawks. The Falcons have one shot, and that's that they have a decent defensive line, and the Seahawks do not. So if the Falcons can rush the passer and create some sacks, which is pretty fucking hard to do when Russell Wilson is in the pocket, they could be close. They could have a chance. But I think this one will go pretty easily to Seattle, who I think are well on their way to a great season. They'll add a piece to that D-line as the season goes. They'll figure that out, and Russell Wilson will be Russell Wilson and be competing for MVPs. But I got Seattle easily.
I also am high on Seattle, and I am short in the Falcons this year. So let's move on. Go Seahawks.
Let me give you a weird spread, though. How about this?
Yeah.
Seattle is only a 1.5-point favorite.
I think that they're going to play it safe for a few weeks. Vegas, I feel like, usually does this, where the first couple of weeks you don't really get any super crazy lines. I agree that that's a little closer than what I might think. I would guess Seahawks by 3 or 4 probably, but maybe there's a little more love from other people besides us and the Falcons, who are rolling back serious continuity this year. You know, it's year whatever of Matt Ryan throwing to Julio Jones with whatever running back in the backfield. But this year, that running back is Todd Gurley. I think there's an argument that the Falcons could be better than we think they are, but I think that you and I both think the Falcons aren't going to be that good this year.
Yeah, I'm going to put $100 on the Seahawks. That's what I'm going to do. All right, let's move on. The Jets and the Bills playing in Buffalo. Josh Allen obviously had a sweet year last year. Sam Darnold had the opposite of that, as he was seeing ghosts and getting caught telling everybody he was seeing ghosts. But I do think there will be a step up from not only Sam Darnold, but from this entire offensive line for the Jets and Le'Veon Bell. With that being said, Buffalo rolls. They win by 10 points in this game because they're one of the best teams in the AFC.
If this is Buffalo's year, and a lot of people have selected Buffalo as the team with like the most non-quarterback talent in the NFL, they should roll this game. If they don't, then I think that we need to take a look around and go, okay, maybe we're a little early on this Buffalo Bills team. Maybe they are still a year away. But this should be Buffalo by at least 10 points. Yeah. The Jets suck.
Buying all the way into Josh Allen. All the way.
Scintillating analysis, but the Jets are fucking awful.
Yeah. Maybe if that offensive line can be better this year, they can win 6-7 games on the high end. But
maybe
that offensive line needs to be a hell of a lot better.
I'm a Sam Darnold believer, by the way. I think that like things have not gone well for him, and he still looked pretty decent.
I'm going to call you out here. Do you still think he can be as good as Matt Stafford?
No, I don't think so. But I think he's going to be above the Andy Dalton line when it's all said and done. Oh, I'm sorry, the Kirk Cousins line.
Kirk Cousins line, dude. Come on. And for those of you at home who don't know, Kirk Cousins line is the line that indicates are you below or above an average quarterback.
In basketball for point guards, it's the Reggie Jackson line.
That's fair. Maybe not anymore. We might have to fix all of these. But moving on, the Packers in an NFC North divisional matchup will take on the Vikings in Minnesota in Week 1, which I think is a super interesting game. I have been like this all very hard. But it's going to happen on many occasions this year because it's still weird as hell that they're not in Oakland. Go ahead. Tell me your pick, and then I'll tell you mine.
The Raiders, for me, I don't really like the Panthers a lot this year. At least, like, not right away, right? I'm betting on continuity. I'm betting on people that are kind of rolling it back a little bit, especially early in the season. And the Raiders are kind of rolling it back, but they've added a few more tools. Year 2 of Josh Jacobs, who I think is going to at some point be a top 5 running back in the league. I think Gruden's a little underrated as a coach because of how much of a fucking clown show he is. But give me the Raiders for this. Don't trust the Panthers.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Raiders, although I think the Panthers could pull it off. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey goes crazy, they can win against anybody in the NFL. But with a new quarterback in a new scheme, and we all know how important that is, it gets pounded into our head year after year that you need time to learn a new scheme. It's not easy to learn an entire new playbook and how guys are going to move around you. So I'm going to go with Vegas as well, pretty comfortably, I think. Even though I think Teddy will look okay, McCaffrey will look great, but I think Vegas will dominate time of possession. Josh Jacobs will go for $160 on the ground, and Vegas will go as well. Okay, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts against perhaps the worst team in football, the Tank for Trevor, Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's go off the spread in this one. I think this is a fun one to go off the spread.
Still the Colts.
Yeah, it's Colts -8. Okay, 7. I'll go 7.5. I'm fine with that.
I've got 2 8s and 2 7.5s. So,
yeah, it's gonna be the Colts pretty easy. right? I mean, we're going to, unless we have that little fun Gardner Minshew might be okay run that we had at the beginning of last season, but I don't think he's taking anybody by surprise
they
this year.
got like 3 of their best players. Like I don't even think it matters how good.
How many games do they win? How many games do they win this year?
2.
2. That's my number. I was going to say 1, but then you said 2, and 1 felt a little too extreme. So I'm going to say 2. The Colts win this one by 17 points.
I can't believe they just cut Leonard Fournette. That's when he has like 800 yards and 50 receptions for the Bucs this year. We're gonna go, man.
You can sell me on the 800 yards. You're never selling me on 50 catches for Leonard Fournette.
We'll see how much checking down Tom Brady still does. I think that's the thing. Is that last year Tom Brady was a little bit of a check down artist. Yeah, and it's true that they did say it's still Ronald Jones' job, but we'll see. I am not a Ronald Jones believer. He was not anywhere on my fantasy draft board, but, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I just think Leonard Fournette will be really good in specialized situations, 3rd and 1, goal line, whatever it may be, but Ronald Jones is probably better in a Tom Brady-style offense for most of the other occasions.
Let me ask you a question. Well, actually, let's not. I'm going to wait for a different game to ask you this question. Let's
move on to Cleveland Browns and Baker Mayfield versus perhaps the best team in the NFL in the Baltimore Ravens. Another one I want to go off the spread on because I think this one makes it a little difficult. The Ravens are -8 in this game.
I think I would take the okay. So I'm going to take the Browns. I think we're going to learn a lot about the Browns very early on. And every year there's kind of like one game early in the season that I think kind of throws people off the scent of a team, like a weird loss. And I could see like the Browns coming out and punching the Ravens in the mouth, and the Ravens don't really recover. And it's like, whoa, did the Browns just win by 17 points over the Ravens? And then at the end of the year, we look back and we go, oh, that was just like kind of a weird fluke thing.
Right. So how I think it'll go, I kind of think it'll be the opposite, but I get where you're coming from because I think the Browns I think they're going to follow a similar path to what you said. I think they're going to lose this one pretty handily. I think this will be a 14 to 17 point game in favor of Baltimore. And then everybody's going to freak the fuck out about the Browns over the next week. But then they have the Bengals and the Washington football team in back-to-back weeks, and that's where you get the cart back on the rails, right? That's where you figure everything out. That is where you turn into what people thought the Browns were going to be last year. You got to get knocked down, and then you got 2 weeks to get back up and see what you really are and see if you can dominate some bad football teams. Because even more than being able to beat good football teams, I think the sign of a good football team is to be able to just beat the shit out of bad football teams. It's what we've seen from the Lions for years is they play up or down to their opponents, right? And that will sure happen sometimes, but you're not going to be expected to beat every great team. If you can beat the bad teams, you're probably going to make the playoffs. I mean, there's a lot of bad teams in the NFL. Yeah. So I don't think the Browns are world beaters. I don't think they're on the Ravens level, but I think they could win 9 games this year. I think they'll lose game 1, and then they'll come back week 2 and 3 and really show the world that they're going to be okay. They're here to play.
I like the Browns. I think that they're going to be very good this year, assuming their coaching situation is the step up I believe it's going to be. So
that's
give me the Browns.
Okay.
All
right.
I got a little bit right on Baker Mayfield as a fantasy player this year too, so not that affects my judgment at all.
You're starting quarterback. All right, the Chargers versus the Bengals. I'm going Bengals. I think Joe Burrow comes out and wins week 1 of his NFL career.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Joe Burrow doesn't have blood. There's like literal like antifreeze in his veins. Like, I like the Bengals a little bit this year, and I like them to catch somebody by surprise early on in the year before everybody has to go, okay, we have to like really take a look at this team. You don't know what their offense is going to look like this year. I think they also kind of have that advantage as well.
And not to mention, the Chargers are throwing out Tyrod Taylor. Like, it's not hard to stop Tyrod Taylor. So the Chargers are actually 3.5-point favorites, but I think the Bengals are going to.
I think that the offense that the Chargers might end up running might be good for what Tyrod Taylor is good at. Because I think
a lot of dump offs.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Keenan Allen over the middle of the field, as much Hunter Henry as they can possibly get until he gets hurt, and I think a lot of Austin Eckler like bubble screens and stuff like that.
I think Eckler could break the running back reception record. That's how much I think he's going to have the ball thrown to.
They might.
I think that'll be the whole offense.
The best PPR team ever.
Yeah,
I can see that being like an interesting way for them to go.
I don't think that's a ridiculous thing to say at all. So I have the Bengals. You have the Bengals, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I like the Bengals a little bit. Not a lot, but
all right. Now moving on to maybe my favorite week 1 matchup and one I will be on my couch with a beer in hand for, and that is Buccaneers Saints.
Yes.
Tom Brady takes on Drew Brees in a divisional matchup. You ever think you'd hear that? I'm going to say it one more time. Tom Brady takes on Drew Brees in a divisional matchup. Could have an impact on the rest of the regular season. And I'm going to go with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
I'm going to take the Saints. However, if this game took place in week 8, I would probably take the Bucs. This is the same thing. The Saints are rolling it back with some new weapons, kind of slightly. I think this thing with Alvin Kamara is going to blow over.
Yeah, it already is.
Very much hoping that it's fine. And I just think we got to give the Bucs a week or two. They just had Leonard Fournette. They've got a lot of moving pieces. They've got some new toys. What's Tom Brady going to look like? I think I'm good to let the Bucs take a week or two. The football season's a marathon, not a sprint. The Seahawks do this every year where they go like 2-4 in the first 6 weeks, and then they figure it out in week 9 or whatever, and they go like 6-2 in the back half or whatever. So I'm going to take the Saints, who I think are Super Bowl contenders, have some of the most talent everywhere on the field, draft well every fucking year. So week 1 Saints.
Yeah, so I feel like it's been a theme of this show to kind of talk about new quarterbacks and new schemes, and that's tough.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about any of that when it's Tom Brady. That's why I'm picking the Bucs. Tom Brady will figure it out. Even that's 57-year-old Tom Brady, I think he'll figure it out.
I think that's a pretty different offense than the one that they had. Like, that offense is designed, I think, to go deeper. I think that's why Jameis Winston was kind of an effective player for them, even though he threw a bunch of picks, is that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to go deep, and they're going to, that's kind of what they do. And now you've got Gronk, too, and I think we'll see how that factors into things, or how that's going to match up with O.J. Howard, who I think is also a good tight end. I got a lot of questions. My question for you is this.
Okay.
Why is it that every year there's only one team that gets free agents? If all of these decisions are based on money for players, like I feel like they are, how is it that Leonard Fournette is being offered the most money by the Buccaneers, and then also so is everybody else? How is that possible? Where there's so many teams with cap space right now?
Yeah, I think it's just like a bandwagon thing. I think people just get hyped. They want to go win a Super Bowl. To Leonard Fournette, especially in the NFL, where like only a quarter of it's going to be guaranteed. What's the difference between $2.3 and $2.5 million? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I mean, there's not some team that's been like, well, how about 3? To me, like, you have the cap space, you might as well use it. If I'm the Lions and I'm going to sign Adrian Peterson, which we're going to get to later, why the fuck wouldn't I shell out $1 million more and get a way better running back?
Couple reasons. One, I don't think the Lions could offer Leonard Fournette a start, like an everyday starter job or even a goal line job. I think he'd be the number 3 running back. And 2, so cap space works funky in the NFL, right? If you don't spend cap space, it carries over to the next year and goes up by 1.5 times. So like if you end a season with $25 million, you're going into that next off season with $37.5 million of that same money. That's how teams like the Colts a couple years ago had like $90 million in cap space, or the Jags a few years ago had like $70 million in cap space, or the Browns last year had $75 million in cap space. I still don't understand how it works completely. Yeah, they were at 60 this year. I still think they have something like 22.
Yes, they do.
But I just think it's one of those things in the NFL where the GMs aren't going to overpay. They're going to be like, this is your value. This is what I'll pay you. And then players are like, well, fuck, then I'm going to go play with Tom Brady.
That sounds like price fixing to me.
Well, it's not as bad as it is in baseball if it's existent. So
yeah, that's another topic for another day.
It is. It's very much
yes,
is.
I agree with you on that.
All right, moving on to your darling in the Arizona Cardinals against the Super Bowl runner-up San Francisco 49ers. Parker, tell me right now, do the Cardinals come out and make a fucking statement in week 1?
Your ass. Give me all of the Cardinals. Give me I will put my mortgage on it. Give me the Cardinals scoring 35 points this week.
I'm trying to agree with you. I'm trying because I don't think the Niners are a Super Bowl team again, even though they haven't lost much. I just don't. I think that team got super hot last year and stayed pretty hot throughout the whole postseason. And I still think they're good. They'll compete for this division. They might win this division. Yeah, I got to go with the Niners. Okay, I tried. I've been sitting here since like 3 games ago. I saw this one was coming up. I've been sitting here trying to talk myself into it. I'm just going to go the Niners. Cardinals are still young. They're still going to have to figure out how they want to get the ball to Nuke Hopkins, which you can pretty much do in any way you want. But there's still going to be a bit of a learning curve there for a young quarterback and a young head coach. We're not sure how the running game is going to be for that Cardinals team. And although the defense should be better, it's still a young defense. It might take a few weeks, especially at the linebacker position. So I'm going to go Niners, but I don't think they'll cover the spread. I don't think they'll win by 7. I think it'll be a field goal or maybe 2 field goals.
Just give me every Kyler Murray rollout to DeAndre Hopkins, like finding like the sideline, throwing it out of bounds where DeAndre Hopkins goes like all the way out with one arm and then reaches in to take it. That's all. That's their whole offense, and it's going to be awesome.
I just don't know how much better at that he is than Deshaun Watson.
I don't think he is. I think it's the rest of the things around him that will make them better at that. A team that I think should have been in on Leonard Fournette, the Cardinals. Kenyon Drake. Yeah. Kenyon Drake's not your A1 guy.
But they gave him a contract like he is.
But it's running backs, man. I just don't think that shit matters. And I think that they missed out an opportunity to get a really good player who would be a nice contrast to what Kenyon Drake is.
And it would really get that hype train rolling nationally, I feel like. People would be like, oh, shit.
So just get, more opportunities for Kyler Murray not to have to go deep all the time. But their weapons are awesome. Like even Christian Kirk is like I think a little underrated, a little undervalued.
Super underrated. Super underrated.
So good players all around.
How many games Cardinals win this year?
Probably 9.
Okay, I'm gonna say 6.
I know you think maybe I was gonna go 10 or 11, but I
thought you were gonna go
a little reasonable. I think the defense is a year away. That's the thing for me. I want to see what Isaiah Simmons looks like. He's the kind of guy that could change defenses. He's also the exact kind of guy that I think NFL defenses screw up.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, moving on to the Sunday night game. The Dallas Cowboys in that fucking sick offense take on the Los Angeles Rams and Jared Goff himself. I got the Cowboys in LA. Cowboys are 3-point favorites. I think the Rams are going to win like 6 games this year.
I think the Cowboys have to win this game. The expectations for the Cowboys this year are very high, and I also kind of feel like the expectations for the Rams are a little bit lower. The Cowboys probably have to score 35 points and win by 14, or it's going to be a week of like terrible first take stuff where it's like, are the Cowboys overrated? They only won by 7 points. Yeah, it'll be rough. I don't want to hear that shit. So like, I guess I'm taking the Cowboys, so I have to listen to that shit. Okay,
that's fair. All right, and then moving on to Monday night. And don't worry, Lions fans, we're getting to the Lions-Bears, but we got to save it for last. It's just, it's good. It's good podcasting,
this
right?
Podcast we have to. Business.
Steelers-Giants is the 7:15 game on Monday Night Football. Danny Jones versus Ben Roethlisberger. Does the future start for New York, or are we still in just this rough stretch of, here we go, another New York Giants season?
I'm not a huge Daniel Jones believer. I don't know if I see him as much more than at his peak, like an above average quarterback. I just haven't seen what I think other people have seen. So give me the Steelers, who cut their starting quarterback at one point last year to make way for some guy who's. Did you see this? The guy that they brought in, his ex-girlfriend is the guy that, what's his name, is dating right now? Not Ben Roethlisberger. Who's their second quarterback?
Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, so the Mason Rudolph's current girlfriend is some guy that the quarterback they just brought in was banging for a while.
Ooh, and Mason Rudolph got cut for him?
No, Duck Hodges got cut.
Oh, okay. Another team that cut their one-time starting quarterback, the Detroit Lions, who again we'll get to later. I'm going to also go the Steelers. It's going to be one of their 6 wins this year. Yeah, I said it, 6 wins. at best.
Wait. You've like been all over the map on the Steelers because at first you were out, and then I kind of thought that I talked you to be an in, and you were kind of like, yeah, Steelers with average quarterback play, they'll be a lot better. But now you're saying you're out. You're out on the Steelers?
I don't ever remember being in. But if I was in, I'm not anymore. Okay, it was a one-day thing. I'm out on the Steelers. 6 wins max. Well,
they've won 8 games with the guy who just cut playing quarterback.
That's cool. So. That's great. Ben Roethlisberger's 100, and he broke his arm last year. It's really good. I'm good on the Steelers.
I imagine when like Ben Roethlisberger dies and he's sitting on the table and they're opening him up to determine cause of death. They're gonna like open him up. It's gonna be like, why are his organs in the wrong place?
Is that his heart and his calf? Like,
why is his liver half the size it's supposed to be? What's going on here?
All right, and then on to the Monday night game, 10:10 kickoff Eastern Standard Time.
Hell yeah.
The Tennessee Titans will take on the Denver Broncos. I'm just going to say it. The Denver Broncos are winning this game. Drew Lock is showing up. He's saying, I'm Drew fucking Lock. I am here to play. And the Titans are going to be, are we going to go 7-9 this year? Because they are.
So this is, I think, the hardest game to pick. What's the line in this game?
Denver's -1.5. Denver's a 1.5 point favorite.
That's a fucking mean line. So
really though, Denver's home.
To me, that's a change. That's a game changer for me. Jadeveon Clowney going to the Titans. They've got the right coach for Jadeveon Clowney. Their offense is going to be probably fine to average to potentially above average if we get the good Derrick Henry week. I'm going to take the Titans this time, but I'm not happy about it. I think you're right about the Broncos. I don't know, man. One of these teams has to miss. Like one of these kind of Broncos, Browns, Steelers teams. I can't like all of them the whole time. So I'm going to take the Broncos as my miss.
Okay. Yeah. 7-9 last year, though. They weren't bad last
year. Yeah. I know. I hear you. But if they go 8-8 this year, for some reason, to me, that would feel like a really successful season for them.
Okay. And then finally, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Ford Field with nobody but the players and the coaches there. The most terrifying player in the NFL himself, Mitch Trubisky, and the Chicago Bears take on your Detroit Lions. Here's the thing. Mitch Trubisky sucks, okay? He sucks. He's going to be a backup quarterback who never starts more than 10 games in a season again for the next 15 years after this, because that's what he is. He's Chase Daniel. That's who he is. He's the Lions' backup quarterback. In fact, I don't know. I'd almost rather have Chase Daniel, okay? Mitch Trubisky is the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now, and sure, he showed up last year against the Lions team that didn't know how to rush the passer and had no secondary and threw the ball around the yard a little bit. Sure, we've seen him throw 6 touchdowns in a game. But guess what? When you get 32 NFL starts, sometimes you do okay. Sometimes defenses just suck. But guess what? This Lions team doesn't suck. But once again, you know who sucks? Mitch Trubisky and the Chicago Bears. Lions by 21.
Okay. Mitch Trubisky, I was so when it was announced that Mitch Trubisky was going to be the starting quarterback for the Bears, I became very nervous because to me this is the exact. I've been watching Lions football my whole life. This is the exact game that they blow every year. They blow 2 games like this every year. This game should be a gimme. The Bears are the least talented team in the division for sure. I think if you're looking at skill positions, probably one of the 3 least talented teams in the NFL. But it doesn't matter because Trubisky just fucking. These are the games that like you just throw your hands up in the air and go, "Oh yeah, that's right, we're gonna go 6-10 this year," because they don't Lions don't close these games out. They never do. I'm super nervous about like if Trubisky got good enough to surpass Nick Foles, who, by the way, won a Super Bowl. Like, I know you're rolling your eyes, and I know that, like, you're probably right thinking critically, like, analysis to roll your eyes. But I'm fucking scared.
Let me tell you why I'm starting Mitch Trubisky over Nick Foles, and it's not because Mitch Trubisky is better than Nick Foles. It's because both of the guys probably look like crap in training camp. So they realize, Nick Foles looks a little bit less like crap. So let's put Mitch Trubisky out there for 3 weeks and then he's going to suck all 3 weeks, and then the crowd's going to boo him off the field, and then we're going to get the guy we want in. That way, we know that if our quarterback sucks for the first 3 weeks, we're not going to the worst guy. Okay, they're going to suck anyways. Let's get the worst guy booed off the field. And that way Nick Foles can step in and be at least a little bit better. At least a little bit. Let's end
convoluted for me.
But there's Chicago. The Chicago fans are still dreaming about Mitch, right? They still think this guy might have it. Just might. Not they're not huge Mitch guys, but they think he might have it. You gotta kill that. You gotta step on that throat so that Nick Foles isn't out there getting booed when you're trying to go 9-7 and make the playoffs with that defense, right? So try to win 2 games, try to win a game in the first 3 weeks with Mitch, and then he's going to get booed off the field. People are going to be putting bags over their heads thinking we drafted this guy over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson and not sitting in the stands because there's no fans anymore except for an Arrowhead. And, dude, the Lions are winning this game by 14 points. I don't care. They're going to dominate. Absolutely, they're going to dominate.
I will not give any credence to the conspiracy theory that the Bears are going to throw away the first 3 weeks of the season so that they can go 9-4 with Nick Foles as their starting quarterback.
I don't think they're throwing it away. I just think they both suck. So let's get the guy who really sucks. Let's get the fans on our side here, so they're not calling for our jobs.
Everybody's job is in the line this year. Everybody, the GM, the coach, everybody's in the hot seat. So I don't think that there's any chance that they're not going to go out and try and win every game and look at the Detroit Lions and go, I mean, yeah, we can win this game. Lions by 3, and don't talk to me during the game.
Hey, can anybody at home tell that I don't like Mitch Trubisky that much?
I was like kind of a Mitch Trubisky truther last year, and he finally, after a few weeks, I was like, okay, I'm going to back away from this.
Is that – sadly enough, I feel like the last 2 NFL seasons, the player we argued the most about was Mitch Trubisky. By the way, I was right. You were wrong. I was right.
Well, this year I think it's going to be Ben Roethlisberger, and I think I'm going to be right about that.
You get a shot. But again, his arm fell off last year.
Maybe.
All right. Let's do some quick pitch. First, you got anything else NFL?
I'm thinking about how good the Titans are going to be with Jadeveon Clowney, and I think it could be the thing that vaults them out of my dislike to my extreme, like if they show up in week 1 and they win by 21 points and Derrick Henry is the guy that we thought he was, even if Tannehill regresses a little, like you and I both think he will. I got my eye on the Titans. They need to do something to make themselves better than last year, and I think they've done it.
Okay. I don't hate it with the Jadeveon Clowney pickup. I just think Tannehill's going to be a lot worse. And I don't think Derrick Henry will be quite as good because it'll be almost impossible to be that good.
I agree.
All right, quick pitch. We're going to start with the big one. We're going to go back-to-back Lions here. Since we starved you for Lions conversation the whole show, we're going to go back-to-back Lions. Adrian Peterson is a Detroit Lion. Now, let me tell you, as a guy who has loved Adrian Peterson the entire time, pretty much I've been an NFL fan, I am absolutely ecstatic about this. Now, where I'm a little concerned about this is, do we have a 1 or 2 running back spot for him because DeAndre Swift is actually pretty hurt? Is that?
I mean, that I definitely, like, when he said in his like press release or when his agent leaked it to Schefter or whatever, he said that, that the Lions had offered him like playing time, basically. He was going to see the field, and that's why he was going to go there. So, yeah, it could be that DeAndre Swift is hurt. It could also be that he's not ready. It could also be that, like, Adrian Peterson comes out every year and looks, for some reason, it's like nobody's talking about it, and then he plays, like, 4 really, really good games. I don't hate it. I mean, I like it. We're going to need somebody. Like, if DeAndre Swift is injured now, he's going to come back, and then Kerryon Johnson's going to slip on a banana peel and get hurt. So it makes sense to have, like, a really solid third guy. I'm sad no Bo Scarborough. I'm sad for Bo Scarborough, but it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. I think we're going to see all 3 of those guys quite a bit this year.
Yeah, and, dude, just the young teenager and child in me is so excited about this. Adrian Peterson has just been – first of all, he's been my favorite running back on Madden every year for a decade, okay? And that's important to me. Second of all, the dude runs like a Mack truck, and he still does. Even though he's old and he's not what he was, he runs like a Mack truck. And I've wanted to see this dude in Honolulu Blue for so long that I don't even care how good he is. I don't care how much playing time he gets. I'm just happy he's finally here. I finally got to see Adrian Peterson go into trade talks or free agency and come out of the other end as a Detroit Lion, which I've wanted every single time one of those things has happened. And sure, he's washed up. I don't give a damn.
I don't know how washed up I think he is, man. I think that he's a little washed up, but like, hold on.
He's still an average NFL running back. I'll give him that, but he's not anything more than an average NFL running back. He'll have a week or two during the season where he goes for 110 yards, but that's about his cap. That's definitely his cap. He's not going for 296 like he went for in 2008.
Last year, 211 rushes, 900 yards, 5 TDs.
What is that, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5?
4 carry? Yeah. Yep.
Jeez.
So
I almost feel like jeez, that's better than I thought. I didn't even look up the stats because I didn't think it was going to be that good. Give me the 2 years prior to that.
Hang on, I'm trying to find that. I'm trying to like read this weird ass. Okay, 17 receptions for 142 yards. That's what I was looking for.
Well, whatever. We don't need that. So carry on, Johnson.
2018, yeah, right. 2018, he had 1,042 yards on 251 rushes.
Fuck it, start Adrian Peterson.
Why not?
Yeah, but I guess that's where we're at. That's better than I thought the last.
Him and Carrion is like, I think that's like pretty potent. I think that's the right amount of responsibility for those guys too. Because if you don't have DeAndre Swift, and I think that like that's where we're at with that, is that probably week 1 we won't see DeAndre Swift. Adrian Peterson is like a first, second down back, and then Kerryon Johnson and third down coming out for receptions is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm going to skip this next one because it was Jadeveon Clowney to the Titans. We've already talked about that. Now I just want to hear. I need you to explain everything that's happening with Messi to me because I'm confused.
So Messi kind of put on his LeBron pants, and I'm gonna frame this in Andrew's world. He did a LeBron where he used his leverage as an athlete and as a celebrity and as a businessman to basically attempt to force Barcelona's president to resign. And Barcelona kind of responded by saying, "No, fuck off." And so he said, okay, I'm leaving. And he went and he found the team, and it sounds like Manchester City was where he was going to go. And they kind of had this 5-year plan where he was going to go play for Manchester City for 3 years. And then he was going to go to New York City FC for the back 2 years of his contract, which are owned by the same team. New York City FC and Manchester City are owned by the same people. Much the way that like the Red Bull thing, it has Leipzig, and then they have a team in Austria, and then they have New York Red Bulls in the MLS. And so there was lawyers involved, and there was some contention because of COVID about whether his $700 million release clause was active. And basically Barcelona says we're not. So he's staying for now. There's what I think might end up happening is he might literally leave Barcelona on a free transfer at some point in the next year. And so Manchester City might get him for free. Now, if I was Barcelona, I get that like
sell him for 150 right now. Sell him for 150 right now. Yeah. Make some money.
Yeah. I think that that's a possibility. They sold Rakitic. They're kind of moving into a new generation. There's an 18-year-old American winger who's been working out with their first team, which is also pretty incredible. But I think Messi's going to end up staying with Barcelona. I think he might leave though. I think that there's real possibilities. He did this like ridiculous interview where he starts talking about Bartomeu, who's the guy by name, and being like, under Bartomeu, it's bad. We made all of these wrong decisions. So I don't think he's happy about it. But I think he basically via lawyers was told, you can't. There's nothing we can do.
Didn't they have to fire their law firm because their law firm was helping Messi figure out how to avoid his release clause?
I didn't read that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, Messi carries a lot of weight. Like, he's either the first or second greatest soccer player of all time.
In that entire country, he probably carries a lot of weight, man. He probably runs that country.
The continent of Europe.
Yeah, and South America for that. Well, no, he's not good enough internationally.
I'm looking up that thing. Yeah, Messi's lawyers who were previously fired by Barcelona for advising Messi on how to unilaterally terminate his contract. I've just left the meeting with his dad and brother. So
that is true?
It looks like it.
Okay.
I think we're not quite finished with this yet, but I think we're probably 90% of the way through. I don't think anything's going to happen. I think Messi is going to get screwed. And if that means that Messi leaves Barcelona, where he's been since he was 16 years old, on bad terms, well, you got to look at that and see that as a failure of management.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed. I've wanted Messi as long as I've wanted Adrian Peterson on the Lions. I've wanted Messi in the Premier League. Even before I was a soccer fan, I wanted Messi in the Premier League. The little I knew about European soccer, it was like, I want Messi on Man City or Man United, because I would always hear soccer fans talking about how Spain is great, Spain is awesome, but it's not the Premier League. It's not the Premier League is number one.
League. The top end of Spain is as good as the top end anywhere. The top 3 or 4 teams are awesome, and they've got some interesting teams mixed in too. Real Sociedad's always got weird good players, and Real Betis has some good young guys usually. Yeah. Villarreal. So.
Yep. All right. Now to round up quick pitch. This one's going to be a little bit less quick, but it's still going under quick pitch because I didn't know where else to put it. Medium pitch. A little slide piece action, if you will. Jonathan Wasserman on Bleacher Report wrote an article, one draft prospect every NBA lottery team must avoid. So I'm going to go through them all. We're going to discuss it quickly. We'll start at the bottom. We're going to do top 10. The Phoenix Suns, Aaron Nesmith, Vanderbilt small forward. And I'm going to say, yeah, I agree, because I haven't done any research on him. And if they get a guy who I have not heard of, that's not good for the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, wait, what?
He shot 52% from 3 through 14 games last year, though. But he only had 13 assists in 500 minutes. 13 assists in 500 minutes. I'm going to agree with that. We're going to move on to the next one. The Washington Wizards, RJ Hampton. This one I disagree on. I think any team 8 or below that gets RJ Hampton, you are taking a risk, a big risk, but the payoff could be huge. This was the number one guy coming into or pre this season, right? This was the number one guy. Went over to New Zealand, looked almost like LaMelo Ball light, which I think is why people have kind of slid off of him. But I'm still a little bit bought in on RJ Hampton. I think he could be a good NBA player. You agree or disagree with that one?
I'm in on RJ Hampton. I think he's going to be a very valuable pick. It's just a really classic, we let this guy. It's like Luka, we let this guy slide because we didn't understand what his situation was.
Yeah. At 8, the New York Knicks, son of Greg Anthony, the North Carolina point guard Cole Anthony. I'm going to agree with that. I think all teams should kind of stay away from
the Knicks should stay away from drafting point guards for a little while.
7, the Detroit Pistons, Isaac Okoro.
I'd be really.
It depends who's on the board. It depends. Is Killian and LaMelo gone? And I mean, the only person, if both those guys are gone and everybody who else is expected to go above them is gone, then it'd come down to Okoro or Halliburton, and I'd be cool with either of those guys in that position.
Halliburton. There was something. Halliburton's coach said that at one point that Tyrese Halliburton will be the guy in charge of the NBA Players Association on the players' side, and that's a huge endorsement for me. That means, I think, a couple of different things, but I think speaks to his maturity. And when you're taking guys like this, I think that's kind of an underrated part of the process.
Yeah, and the thing I don't like about Okoro is you're basically just drafting Sekou again. Just super non-refined on offense. Yeah, but I would rather have a Sekou and I don't know who to compare
Shadow Sekou
Halliburton to. Yes.
The nether version of Sekou.
All right,
he's always dating women and...
All right, this one I do not agree with, and this is number 6. I'm going to read a little bit of what he writes here. The Atlanta Hawks with Obi Toppin. He said he could be a duplicate of John Collins. So far, it doesn't sound like you want to stay away from that
about
guy.
5 inches away from that.
Collins' lack of rim protection was likely the driving force behind Atlanta's decision to acquire Clint Capella. Adding Tobin wouldn't make much sense unless Atlanta was hesitant to pay Collins long term. I disagree with that. Adding Tobin makes sense if Atlanta's just we're gonna be the 7 seconds or less Suns. We're gonna score 130 points a game, which could very well be this team's plan for the future. I disagree with this one completely.
The thing about the Hawks to me is that they've kind of drafted Flash. That's kind of been their MO, I feel like, over the last couple of years, with the exception of Herter. So maybe the argument is they would take a flashier player, but like LaMelo to me, if the Hawks can get if LaMelo was on the board when the Hawks are drafting, they're taking LaMelo.
Okay. Now this next one, same player, Obi Toppin, different team, Cleveland Cavaliers. I completely agree with this one. Can you imagine a lineup defensively with Obi Toppin, Kevin Love, and Andre Drummond as your three defenders down low, and then you have like Darius Garland and that team. If they played like the healthy Warriors next year, they'll score 160 on them. I don't even think I'm exaggerating. They'll break the NBA scoring.
James Harden missing an arm could score 30 points against them.
So I'm going to agree with that one. At 4, the Chicago Bulls avoid James Wiseman. What do you think about that one?
I don't really have any thoughts on the Bulls. I have no idea what they're doing.
I feel like they can kind of go wherever they want here.
Yeah, so if on your board James Wiseman's the guy and he's there, I'd take him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Take talent if you're the Bulls.
I think I feel the same way. There's nobody there except for like Zach LaVine, and even Zach LaVine you can trade and get some nice assets. Kobe White?
James Wiseman is the center, right?
Yeah. But I'm just saying. I'm saying. They have Wendell Carter down low. They have Lauri Markkanen down low. But neither of those guys are like true centers.
Yeah,
Markkanen's probably on his way out the door anyways because you found out he's not the superstar he looked like he might have ended up turning out to be.
Wiseman probably needs a year too, right? So in a lot of ways, letting him bake for a year isn't a terrible idea to me to play him behind Wendell Carter.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate Wiseman to the Bulls.
Wouldn't hate it.
At 3, the Hornets, Denny Avdija. I'm going to read some of this one, too, because I think this is interesting. The Charlotte Hornets are in a good spot at number 3, which gives them the opportunity to draft either LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards, not necessarily, by the way, to propel their offense. But there is some belief that Denny Avdija deserves a top 3 to be a top 3 pick. They're saying if they love Denny Avdija, Charlotte could trade down, but they shouldn't take him at 3. And if it goes LaMelo Edwards 1-2, I don't necessarily agree that they shouldn't take Avdija at 3. I mean, do you have better options? Maybe.
We are doing Denny Avdija, right?
Yeah, Denny Avdija, the Hornets. I don't hate it at 3. You just got to be confident that that's the 3rd best player in the draft. And it's going to be hard for people to be confident with a European guy this year at number 3. We're not going to have the opportunity to work them out. We're not allowed to go to Europe right now. We're not allowed there. So it's all film and phone conversations and phone interviews. So
I think that if you get a good deal to trade down, that you should take it. If you're really anybody in the top, if you're in like that 3 to 6 range, I think that's the trade down range.
The Golden State Warriors are to avoid Anthony Edwards. I think Golden State can pick whoever the fuck they want.
I mean, I get why he thinks that because it's a little duplicitous of a pick. They've kind of already got a couple guys that they don't need another like shooting heavy guard. They just don't need one.
If they're using this pick, use it on James Wiseman.
I agree.
Period.
Or take a roll the dice on a Denny Avdija, like a winner that you like a lot.
But I also, if they take Anthony Edwards, I say, oh, damn, the Warriors just got Anthony Edwards. That's probably going to work out. So
I'd be really surprised if he wasn't the first pick.
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota's taking him. But Minnesota is to avoid James Wiseman. Duh.
Sure.
Duh. That seems rather obvious to me. James Wiseman and Karl Anthony Towns doesn't work together. I mean, maybe 5 years down the line, it works in like this really funky, weird 7'1" with a 16-footer. Karl Anthony Towns shooting 40% from 3. Wiseman's protecting the basket because Cat really can't consistently. So maybe in 5 years that works, but right now it doesn't. They're taking Anthony Edwards as they should.
Cat's not going to be there in 2 years if they take James Wiseman.
That's
sorry.
Although him and D'Lo seem like they are ready to like. Do the Damian Lillard route and be like, we're here till we figure it out, but they're not that good. So,
I don't know if I think that Cat is thinking that way.
The stuff I've seen of him and Russell together, it seems that way. They seem like they are lockstep. They're like, this is our franchise. We're doing it together. Neither one of us is Jimmy Butler. So we'll see. So that's it. That's it with that. I don't have anything else for quick pitch. Do you have anything left?
No, we're coming up on the end of soccer transfers, and there are some very interesting rumors in the works right now for some American players. I'm very excited. I'm going to say this again at the end. If you've ever been interested in following the United States men's national team, get on the bandwagon now. There's a lot of stuff to look at. There's a lot of places to go. It sounds like Brendan Aronson might get into that Red Bull system, which would be really cool. Go play in Salzburg, Red Bull Salzburg.
All right, and before we leave, I want to leave you with one stat line. And that is going to be the sweetest stat line you've ever seen from a 35-year-old. LeBron James stats so far in the playoffs this year, 26.5 points, 10 rebounds, 9.6 assists, 1.4 steals, a block, 58% from the field, and 40% from three. Ooh, mama, that is some fire.
There goes that
man. All right, but anyways, for myself, Adrian Norris, your host, and Double P producer Parker, go like us on Spotify. We really are hoping to be up on Apple Podcasts soon. I know that's.
I don't know what the hell is going on with that. I'm working on it.
We'll figure it out. Also, watch us on Facebook. If you don't want to go on Facebook to Planet Ant, go to YouTube. We're trying to get those YouTube views up.
Yeah,
we need you guys just go click on it, hit the like button. Everything else is doing fine. We need you on YouTube, so give us a like there. Go like it on Spotify. Thank you all so much for listening. Tuesday, 8 o'clock. We will see you same time next week. Peace. Oh, and here's our awesome sports clip of the week, by the way.
Now, Hornquist has gone into the box.
Because Letang's gone to the dressing room. That's why Hornquist is in there, Doc and Eddie.
That boy Horny served that one, bud. You're useless. Born tonight, not last night. Come on.
Hey! So, TK, we lose, you go.
Yeah.
Boy, Patrick is able to pay back Johnson with that huge hit in behind Matt Murray. Good hard hit.
Hey, attaboy Johnson! Attaboy Johnny, eat up, bud! Attaboy Patty! Karma's a fucking bitch, eh? Eat up, bud! Eat up! Oh, you got a two by four us in the head again? Oh, Malcolm? That thing's a weapon, buddy. Holy. Hey, take those ear cuffs off, you nerd. You nerd.